Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPaWrites here once again, and today we have a brand new tier list video for you guys. This one showing off the Apex Legends weapons in Season 11 and where I think they stand. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We put up tier lists every single week. We go over them live at twitch.tv/JoPaWrites every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree with my tier list? Because I love going back and forth with people on why I put everything where it goes and my personal opinion on things. But it's just a lot of fun. So let's just jump into it. I'm excited. I can't wait. I know I've been wanting to do this for a while because I know my opinions are going to be a bit different than a lot of other people because of my playstyle and because I'm not like a pred level player either. So all right, let's see. First up, 3030 repeater. I think this is B tier. I think it's underrated actually as a gun. It's solid. The only problem I have with it oftentimes is that when I'm missing shots, it feels very punishing because I can get melted by like a Rampage or I can get sniped or something like that. So because of that, I drop it down to B tier. But otherwise, I think it's actually a pretty solid weapon overall and is underrated by most people. Mostly maybe because they can't hit their shots, but I don't know. Alternator, S tier. This is, I know care package weapons are a little bit of a category of their own. However, if there's two care package weapons I want right now, it's either the Alternator or the Kraber. Now, the Spitfire is also really solid, but I feel like there's other things that you can compete with the Spitfire, whereas the Alternator is just absolutely insane. The Bocek bow is also going to go B tier for me personally. The reason for that is that, again, just like the 3030, I feel like when I'm hitting my shots with it, it feels amazing. But if I miss a shot or two, it just feels very, very punishing. And I know I personally get frustrated. These are also weapons that you'll see if somebody on your team is running it. It feels like either they're hitting every single shot or not hitting any of them ever. So that's also why it plays into my rankings for sure. This is the car. The car I think is A tier, and I think is currently the best ground loot SMG in the game. I think it's the separation between it and the Volt is not so great because they do slightly different things, but because of that, I think the car is A tier. Also, just to FYI, I play on controller, so that might make a little bit of difference to my rankings as well. But I think the car is really fantastic, and it's my go-to SMG right now. Currently, I was a Volt fan, but just too many times I would get beat up close by the car, so I swapped, and now that's what I'm running, unless I'm running a shotgun. Charge rifle. This gun is probably the most annoying in the game, besides maybe the Rampage, but I think it's actually really good for its purpose, which is just farming damage. It's hard to get knocks and thirsts with this gun because of the way the damage works, but ultimately it's super annoying. And if you're playing ranked, if you're playing competitive, this can come in really handy for a lot of people to just do damage. You can use your 4 to 8 sights or sights you don't use on pretty much any other weapon, and for that reason I think it's a solid B tier. Devotion. Now the Devotion is kind of interesting because there have been times where I felt it's A tier, there are times I felt it's C tier, so I think it belongs in B. When you find a turbocharger, it's nasty and can absolutely melt people. The problem is with a lot of these B tier weapons is they can be really, really good, but unfortunately at times will just not be it. And if you don't have a barrel stabilizer, if you don't have a turbocharger on the Devotion, it can be really mediocre, and so that's why it drops down to B for me. Eva 8 is a solid D for me right now, and the reason for that, it feels like a marshmallow shooter at times. If I'm hitting for 8 damage or whatever consistently, Oh, there's nothing worse in the game than just like fluffing your shots, and that's what I feel like the EVA does more often than not at the current state that it's in. It used to be really, really good. I hope it never returns to that state again, but honestly, as far as shotguns in the meta right now, it's really far down the list. Flatline. Flatline is an A. I think it's very versatile. It can do a lot of things. On keyboard and mouse with the jitter aim, it's phenomenal. Might be S tier. But for me and my playstyle and what I run, it's just not as good as another AR on this list. So that's why it drops down a little bit personally. So the Scout. Scout is a C. It's a good weapon. In the right hands, it can be really good. However, there's nothing more like it's the least desired weapon in the care package right now, and because of that, I knock it down a couple steps. Because, like, if I open a care package and I see a scout, there's definitely going to be some disappointment, and that's why I knock it down. It's not a terrible weapon. It's not going to be as bad as some of the other C or D tier weapons, but you can't tell me if you're open up a care package hoping for a Kraber or Alternator and you get a Scout, you're not a little bit let down. So that's why I drop it down a little bit. Havoc. Havoc is going to be C for me as well. Just like the Devotion with the Turbocharger, it can be really good. However, the Havoc just feels less consistent for me. Like, it doesn't have the range that I would want to run an AR with. Like, I'm not consistent with it at range. Or at least mid-range. So that's why I personally drop it down a little bit. I know other people have it down and they can use it, but I cannot. And so that's why I don't like it higher than what it is right now. Hemlock. Hemlock, I think, is a little underrated. Nah, it's just a C. So the Hemlock is interesting because I know a lot of people they'll swear by it, they'll hip fire with it, they'll burst you out, but it just feels like because of the burst and how far apart the bullets are, if you're fighting someone at medium to longer ranges, I would give me the 30-30 all day. And then I can put shatter caps on the 30-30 and it can work up close as well. And it just outshines the Hemlock. That's why I'm going to have the 30-30 higher. And like, I'll take the Flatline over it. I'll take the Rampage over it. That's especially true is like, why would you pick up the Hemlock when the Rampage just does everything just better? So, unfortunate, but that's just the way I see it personally. Kraber is S tier. Anytime the Kraber is on the field, everyone is terrified, and rightfully so. It's been a menace since it's been introduced in the game. It's been dominating the care package, and I think for that reason, it's S tier, and it's always going to be S tier as long as it remains in those care packages. It'd be interesting if they removed it for a season or two, or if they dropped it out of the care package, what they'd have to do to make it not as menacing. Longbow. So the problem with the longbow right now isn't that the longbow is bad. It's just the Sentinel, triple take, those type of weapons are just better. So that's why I have it at C. It used to be a menace with skull piercers, but right now where it stands, I just don't think it stacks up, and for that reason, it drops down to a C. I'd love to see the longbow get some shine again, but it's just not it for me personally. L-Star. Now, this is interesting. The L-Star, I'm going to put it in B tier. I feel like the L-Star used to be broken as down to a good place right now. If I get it early on, it performs really, really well. And the leaks are for next season, a little bit of a spoiler, that it's going to get a hop-up. And that could be absolutely insane if the hop-up is really cool. So I like it solid in B tier. I think the problem with that is I'm always going to take a Volt over the L-Star, but overall it's still pretty good, and I will pick it up if it's on the table. I prefer it to the Devotion if I don't have a turbocharger personally, and I would pick it up over the Havoc pretty much 9 times out of 10. Mastiff, this is going A. I run Jibby a lot, and the reason for that, and the Mastiff in his hands is just absolutely crazy. We're kind of in a massive meta right now, which we haven't had in some time, and it just feels more consistent than like the Peacekeeper for me personally. So that's why I'm gonna put it at A tier. If I don't run Jibby, maybe I'll drop that down to B, but and then swap it with the Peacekeeper. But that's just where it stands personally. Mozambique is D. Again, it's one of those weapons that like has always been a meme, and at times people can make it work. Every gun on this list, the top end players can make work. Anybody can get some good kills with it, but consistently, it's not going to perform well. And I think it's a little bit better than the Eva, but they're both on the same level. What is this? This is the P20, which also goes in D tier. I think the P20 sucks. I would never pick it up. I'd almost rather punch people than do it. I mean, I've got some decent kills with it, but like overall, it's just not a weapon that I'm rocking ever. It's not great. Peacekeeper is gonna go B tier. The only reason this isn't higher is because of consistency. The Peacekeeper, when it hits, is so satisfying. You hit like 80 or plus damage, you're good. But then you'll hit somebody for like 11 damage and you'll be furious. So, for that reason, maybe it's my inconsistency, I don't know. But for that reason, I'm going to keep that at B tier. And I don't know. I just don't really care for the Peacekeeper personally all that much compared to the Mastiff. And again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that I run Jibby for the most part, so that does change things. Prowler is a C tier for me right now. The reason because the Volt is better, the car is better. I will take a bunch of other SMGs over the Prowler at this particular time. And so that's why it's lower on this list than it would have been last season. Last season, I love the Prowler. But after getting smoked by other weapons from time to time, it drops down. Carbine. I have Carbine at S tier. My reasoning is my favorite gun in the game. It's the most consistent gun in the game. I can use it short range. I can use it mid range. I can use it decently long range. I just love the Carbine. And if there's one weapon I could have at any point in a game, it's going to be the Carbine. So I think it's just the best overall all-around weapon, especially on controller for me personally. So R99, this one's hard because I don't like it as much as the Volt. I don't like it as much as the car. I think it'll be B tier. When you have magazines on this, you can do insane amount of damage in a short amount of time. But overall, I just don't think it does as well as some of the other options in the list. So that's why I'm going to drop it down to B tier. And yeah, that's my personal preference. I think it's okay. But there's a few things. It's very disappointing at times when you grab one off of the ground and you'll feel like you'll shoot like 3 bullets and then you got to reload already. And that's just very annoying. So. All right, Rampage. Oh, wait, no. My apologies. The RE. C tier. It's solid. If I had any inclination that I wanted to use this past, like, the first circle, this would be better. But early game, you can melt people. You can get some nice cheap kills with it. But overall, it's not going to be super useful later in the game unless you're really confident in using it. It's just not gonna, like, you would rather have the car or even the 9 if you get attachments for it. So that's where I think it lands personally. Rampage right now is S tier. It's like they nerfed it, quote unquote, but it's still the easiest to use gun in the game for a lot of people. It's got long range capabilities, got close range capabilities. You can throw the thermite on it. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And one day they'll actually nerf it, and it won't be as strong as it is now. But currently, it's still pretty broken. And I I do think it's one that I think they should change eventually because it's just so strong. It does a lot of the thing is what I like about weapons is when they do what they do really well and nothing can beat it at what it does really well. It's hard sometimes to challenge a Rampage with a marksman rifle with one of these bad boys or even a sniper when it's just ping, ping, pinging you. And even if they don't hit all their shots, they're going to hit enough. They're gonna do a lot of damage to you. So it's for that reason. That's why it's A tier, and I think it's or it's S tier, and I think it's hopefully gonna get nerfed sooner than later. Sentinel. Sentinel is like a slightly better longbow in my opinion. Charging it up is cool, but like overall, I almost want to put it in C because I think right now we're in a marksman meta, and the marksman rifles just are better currently than the snipers are. If I were to like personally say which one would I prefer, it would be marksman rifles over snipers in the current meta. Let's see. We got Spitfire. Spitfire is easy A tier. I would say it's S, but I just don't think. See, the thing is, like, if someone picks up a Spitfire, I'm not scared of it like I am a Kraber or Alternator at the same way. And in certain ways, I can almost outshoot it with a Rampage. So for that reason, I think it's A tier. I think it's really, really good. I think it's really scary. But of the care package weapons, it's like just a notch below the Alternator and the Kraber, and for that reason I drop it down to A tier, even though it is fantastic. Also A tier is going to be the triple take. Triple take is my favorite long range gun in the game. Being able to use it on Chibi, like that's the reason I can outshoot Rampages at time, because having my gun shield and then I can tag them for like 69 damage, for example, is really nice, and I think it's the best, most consistent ranged weapon in the game at current. It just doesn't obviously have the insane damage of the Kraber, but consistency wise, I think it's really, really good. Volt, I'll also put that in A tier. The Volt and the Car, the two best SMGs in the game right now. I feel like the Volt has a bit more range, and you just have to play it a little bit different. It's hard now with the shotgun meta. You have to kind of adjust the way you use the Volt to make sure you keep people out of shotgun range. But you can beat the Car if you're using it with a little bit of a gap. So for that reason, I think it's A, and I think it's really good. And it's consistent. Like, I feel like it's one of the more consistent weapons besides the carbine on this list. Wingman. All right. Are you guys ready for my hot take? The Wingman is mid. It is B tier, and the reason for that is there are so many people who have no business running the Wingman who consistently do. And listen, if you're playing pubs, run whatever you want and have fun. If you're playing arenas, run whatever you want and have fun. There are so many people in like ranked who will pick up the Wingman, and I don't do this in ranked really that often, but like I use it in pubs, and it's one of the least consistent guns for me in the entire game. At the top end, it's insane, but like the problem is it's so not forgiving. If you run into a Car, shotgun, or Volt, there's a good chance you could get melted. If you run into a good player with a Wingman, it's absolutely S tier. But if you run into a bad player with a Wingman, you might come out of that fight unscathed, no damage. Same thing with if you have a teammate running it. It's like, I just noticed my damage numbers when I run the Wingman are so much lower, and overall it's a high skill gun. I like that it's in the game, but I am almost never going to use it because the lack of consistency compared to so many other weapons. That's why I like the carbine so much. It's so consistent. That's why I like the Volt or even the Flatline or the triple take. All of those weapons are the most consistent for me, and for that reason, that's why they fall where they do on my personal ranking. Now, I can't wait to hear people argue with me. I think this is going to be a little of some of these are going to be a little bit of a hot take, but that's just my list where I see them not only with my play style, but also what I see used against me, what I see my teammates running, how successful they are. I hope you enjoyed the video. My name is JoPaWrites. I can't wait to argue with you in the comments, and I'll catch y'all later.